Avery, whose show is this? And we're live. Welcome everybody here to the Lakers Lounge Podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, joined on this fine, little frigid, little cold where I live, Monday afternoon. Harrison, what's the weather over there? Like it's 42 degrees outside right now where I live.
It's a little nicer than 42. I think it's somewhere in the 70s and sunny. It's like I mean, it's California cold, so it's like maybe you put on a sweatshirt if you go for a walk at night.
Like when I go home this time of year, if I ever do go home this time of year, it drives me insane how big jackets people wear. Back home, like, you don't need a jacket as big as you're currently wearing. I'm telling you. Like, I come from a place where you actually need that big of a jacket, and I'm like, you're sweating inside that thing. Like, go ahead, put on like a regular sweater. You're all right. Just put on a hoodie.
I sometimes wear a weatherproof jacket outdoors when I'm going for walks, but that's just because like I got that shit on, like not because
Yeah. It's a choice. It's a life choice that you make. And I mean, like, you also have zero insulation, right? Like, you're a very, very skinny person.
Not as skinny as when you left, but yeah, I've
You got dad bod?
like lower
You got
lower.
cat
Yeah,
dad bod?
I have like blog father bod or something like that. It's like I have all my blog children that I have to worry about and put on some weight.
You just blame whatever whatever weight you've gained on Kirk. Like, it's like, you know what?
Literally, it's Kirk's fault. That's what I was gonna say. I saw that Kyrie had a bulging disc, and I was terrified of the typos that were gonna come out of that from.
Today on the show, we're going to be talking about the Lakers backup center situation. We are at that time of the year where this is a national
all
story.
Year?
Yeah. No, but I feel like it's just like it's specifically louder as we get closer to the trade deadline, right? Because after that, then it's no longer addressable, really. So we're going to talk about that debate that is going on. It's been really interesting that on something this specific, you don't normally see the chasm that exists between what like the Lakers seem to think they need and what like the fan base seems to think they need. So we're going to talk about that. We'll talk also about Jared Vanderbilt and the role that he plays, or unfortunate term to use there because he doesn't play very often, but like the
that was unnecessary. That was mean. You didn't.
But Jared Vanderbilt might return soon, and that's something that the Lakers seem to be pointing to as a reason why they don't need to invest in the backup center spot. We'll talk about, like, I think there's a lot of interesting meat on that bone, so we'll talk about that as well. And then, we'll wrap up the show not only with the super comments that might pop up over the course of the show, but Harrison, you and I are recording this 35 games somehow already into the season. The next time you and I record in a couple weeks from now, the Lakers will have passed that or crossed that midway point threshold. So we'll get our like mid-season review or report out of the way today as well. A quick reminder, please do hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you get your podcasts. And if you guys are watching live, actually, Avery is currently watching live. She is in the other room right now. Yeah, she's like literally watching right now. Hi, kiddo. And she is, because I told her, I was like, hey, I'm going to be working. She's like, you're going to do a show? And I'm like, yeah. And I go, do you want to watch? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, you're going to be interested for the amount of time that it takes to say your name. And then you can go ahead and change it to whatever channel that you want to change it to. So, kiddo, we'll talk to you later.
You give her full channel access?
I think she,
you have parental control set up on YouTube, I hope?
She's on my channel right now. So no, we'll see what I walk into when I go. All right. So here's the thing though. My algorithm. So I basically only use YouTube for background noise. Like, you have, and so I'll set, like, I have like the top search on my Google, on my YouTube search thing, is Harry Potter ambience, because it's literally like these people. Yeah, it's like, because I only use it like background noise when I write. Other than, if I'm using YouTube, that's all that I basically use it for. So it's like a bunch of these like 3-hour long videos of the Hogwarts Legacy, like, version of Hogwarts set to the film score, and that's what I usually write with. So I don't think Avery's going to get into any trouble. Famous last words. All right, so let's go ahead though, and talk about this Lakers backup center situation. I think it's pretty rare that we come to a consensus in the people covering the team, the fans watching the team, the fans who interact with those who are creating content about the team. I think everybody seems to agree that Jackson Hayes and whatever is left of Christian Wood isn't good enough, in regards to the Lakers backup center spot, especially with JJ Redick not appearing to trust Christian Koloko all that much, who I think is a better basketball player right now than Jackson Hayes. It's weird though, because like we seem to feel that way and the Lakers seem to feel a very different way. Let's start, Harrison, with how you feel about the backup center spot. Do you find yourself agreeing with the consensus on this front, or do you think that this is one of those like situations where the team has actually played relatively well and this is a thing that everybody is going to yell about because they don't have anything else to yell about?
I mean, I do think that there's a certain degree of, because all of us grew up on like the Gasol Bynum Lakers, or you grew up on the Shaq Lakers, who did sort of play like, I mean, it's weird to say small ball with Shaq, but they actually, Robert Horry was not your traditionally sized power forward for that time, and like provided more spacing than you normally got out of that spot. So that's what I mean. But the Lakers have always had dominant big men, and so of course, Lakers fans are going to be more predisposed, myself included, to, if they run up against like a Nikola Jokic or one of these like monsters that is in the league, to like
Steven
hit the button
Adams
that's
just
like,
did it to him.
that's like, get a traditional center,
Yeah.
yeah, Steven Adams, lower level, but yeah, you're right. I mean, the Lakers
He
struggle
just
against
did, like,
those
he's lower level, but he just did it to him.
yeah,
Like, he just
no,
wrote
that's
the
what I mean.
reminder.
Yeah, and AD struggles with those sorts
Yeah.
of guys that just force him to constantly be boxing out, because he wants to go block shots. He wants to go, like affect stuff defensively. And then the Lakers don't have other people to sort of pick up the slack for him on the boards. Like, LeBron's not going to do that at this phase of his career. Rui is not going to do that, even when apparently he has 30 seconds to prove to JJ that he deserves to play in the second half. It's just that they don't have like a lot of strong gang rebounders. And so, I understand the desire for a traditional center. I understand the desire for someone to sort of be able to take those big physical guys so that AD can help out from like the help side, so that it's not like, hey, we got Rui guarding Jokic or whoever and sort of doing a bad job, but holding up for long enough for AD to come over and, affect the shot or something like that. And so like, I get why people want a big, but I also think that JJ has sort of shown us that he's probably not going to play one, like,
Yeah.
not that, hey, like, again, I don't think Hayes is good, and I'm not sure if Koloko's good or not. I sort of like, it's hard for me to like harangue JJ too much for not playing him when I don't think that he's all that great. And so but JJ so far has seemed to show an inclination towards small ball, which would sort of make sense with, I know you guys mentioned on the show that he should be as blank of a slate as any coach coming in, but how blank of a slate is really any coach, especially one that played high level basketball? Like JJ, just because he hasn't head coached in the NBA before, he has ideas about what works in the NBA. And, you can, unlike most head coaches, you can go back and find hours of his public thoughts on what works in the NBA. And
Yeah.
a lot of it is around shooting and how important that is to have on the floor and how important it is to be skilled. And so I don't think that if they trade for some big bruising backup center, that JJ is going to play him a ton of minutes, that they're going to play him alongside whoever this theoretical person is, a lot alongside Anthony Davis. And so I can sort of, if you're Rob, like I can get why you would be like, I don't know that I want to give up assets for a really expensive player that my coach is probably not going to utilize or appreciate that much anyway.
I'm literally writing about this for Clutch Points right now. And I'm writing about the role that Vanderbilt plays in all of this discussion too, and the role that the Lakers see for Vanderbilt whenever he comes back, or if he comes back, all of that good stuff.
Have any of your sources told you that they can't judge this team without Jared Vanderbilt yet?
All of them, every single one of them. Like, yeah,
funny line, even from league sources. Weirdly, it's even people not working for the Lakers are like, well, you can't judge this team without Jared Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I think one accidentally said Trevor Ariza's name one time, and it was just like, whoops, force of habit. My bad, everybody.
Yeah.
But like, all right. Can we do like a quick sidebar on this? I want to ask you, the Big J journalist, this question, because, you know how skeptical I am of stuff, right? And I, in my reporting, like all I can do is basically like report what I am told, right? That's all you can do. And I also don't want to really like undercut my own reporting on a lot of this stuff. But it's also like, if you get told something that is so ridiculous as part of that reporting, like what am I supposed to do there? Like I'm trying to figure that out. Like the way that I've gone about it is basically like, all right, I have my written content and my written reporting, and then I have like the tweets that I fire off that kind of like bridge that gap between my written reporting and then like my podcasting, which is a lot more conversational, and I can offer a lot more context and a lot more nuance on some of those things. What would you like when like somebody says, yeah, we can't really judge this team until Gabe Vincent comes back again? Like, what am I supposed to do there?
So my response to that from a source would be literally what I just did right now. And I would, yeah, I would probably laugh. Which, your mileage may vary as a response, from people, whether or not they're going to consider that polite conduct or someone that you still want to talk to anymore. But, I think
with like with the vast majority of my like the sources or the people I talk to, they know who I am. They know
they're
how
not
like
expecting you to kiss their ass.
Yeah.
I think, look, you can convey what you have been told while also saying that you personally do not think that makes a whole lot of sense or agree with it. It's like if somebody was leaking to me, it's like, well, the Lakers, like they just aren't sure that they can get a trade done at the trade deadline this year because they don't have any first round picks left. It's like, well, wait, but they do.
But objectively
like
do.
that's like factually untrue. You do have first round picks. Like I
Yeah.
wouldn't just say like this is why the Lakers think that. I would be like, the Lakers think that they can't make a deal because of this, and they are idiots. And
that would probably lead to me no longer having conversations.
I probably wouldn't go that far, but it's like you add the line in the reporting of like this is incorrect. Like the Lakers have
right.
Like it's like
narrator.
So
they do have first runners.
Yeah, this is obviously more subjective than that. Like you can't just be like, well, it's factually untrue that the Lakers don't need a backup center, because I mean, how do you factually prove that one way or the other? It's like you can say that maybe the best version of this team is the small ball version, just more coalesced, more time to gel, with Vando back, with Gabe Vincent back, with Jalen Hood-Schifino back. They Bronny's had half a year to develop in the G League.
They know, like,
so like I think you can toe the line between like there are a lot of good writers. Like Zach Lowe was really great at this in terms of like inserting his own analysis in amidst reporting, or inserting reporting in amidst his own analysis. It's like, hey, I think this, but here's
I'm a lot better at the latter
about their
reasoning
or why they're doing it this way, and it's like, and I respect that viewpoint. I just disagree.
I'm a lot better at like, here's analysis and then here's what people are saying about like, this than I am or maybe not better, but comfortable doing that. Whereas like, yeah, like
I
when
think
I'm
as
still
long
trying
as
to
you
figure
push
out,
back to them during the reporting process so that they're not
yeah,
getting blindsided by like if
yeah, why
someone were to
didn't you bring that up?
hypothetically yeah, if someone were to hypothetically tell you, they're like, well, we just don't think that we can judge this team without Gabe Vincent. And like they were
Yeah,
totally serious. And then you're like, oh yeah, okay, sounds good. And then you wrote it and you're like, and that is an idiotic position in your story. And you
yeah,
didn't say that to them, then they would have
yeah,
a right to feel some type of way. But
yeah,
if you're
absolutely.
as long as you're not saying anything that you wouldn't say to their face, like I don't see any problem with you being like, hey, like I do not agree with this stance that they are taking, but this is how they feel about it. And so we have to operate within sort of it's like our old friend Aaron used to say, like you have to deal with reality on reality's terms. And
Yeah,
if the reality is that they are not willing to give up assets for a big, then it's not worth us spending a whole lot of time discussing, hypothetical big candidates that they're going to go get or arguing about it, because it's like, hey, it's not going to happen. What is the best that they can do on an alternative path? Not that you can't
so
criticize them for like, hey, like if you think that's dumb, you can be like, hey, I think that's dumb. But
yeah,
it's only so productive to operate in like a fantasy world where they're going to do the things that you think are smart.
right. Well, especially when we're talking about the Lakers, and they and I never seem to agree on anything.
Very little. Yeah.
Um, but like, all right. So case in point, then, right? So, um, there are there is optimism out there that Jared Vanderbilt might be coming back in the next like week or so,
Well,
right?
you did hear JJ. He clarified this was real progress this time, as opposed
Yeah.
to the fake
The,
progress
the
before.
previous progress was like
The
fake
previous
progress.
progress was like we made that up just to mess with you guys.
Neener
But
progress.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is real progress. So anytime you have to give the addendum, no, this is real progress, not a great
Yeah.
sign for how things have been going to that point.
So, yeah. I'm like, what happens if like the real progress
They're like,
also
no, no,
isn't
no.
there?
Let me clarify. We're not lying to you this time.
Yeah. Well, and then like if this doesn't turn out well, it's like, all right, that last time was like this is like a super duper triple dog dare
This
real.
is super califragilistic real progress.
Yeah. So, all right. So, but like this actually works out well. Obviously, my advice to anybody who asks me about Jared Vanderbilt's health and availability is to go get help. Because if you're asking me about Jared Vanderbilt's health, like this is a dire situation. He hasn't played basketball in upwards of almost a year, almost exactly a year. And so like my approach to Jared Vanderbilt's health and availability is I will believe that he is healthy and available when I see him literally healthy and available on a basketball court, because that's the only, I think, prudent
And
way to
it's got
go
to be
about
for like
this.
10 games,
Yeah,
at
that
this
too,
point.
right?
That's
Like
fully
that
trusted
too.
because we've seen him make short-term returns and then it's like, oh, it flared up again. He can't play. And that
Right.
sucks, but like, I'm not saying that he's at fault or blaming him for it, but it's just
No,
like,
it's just the reality of
this
the
has clearly
situation.
been an extremely nagging injury. And it's like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to count on you to be in the lineup long-term until you have been in the lineup long-term at this point.
Yeah. So, all right. So what I was going to say is that like there is some optimism that Vando could return, as soon as this weekend even. However, there and like as that might be the case, the Lakers really want to see what the rotation looks like with Vando taking basically all of Jackson Hayes's minutes. And we've already seen, I think, the kind of basketball JJ Redick would prefer the Lakers play. He started the season switching everything. He the first game that they had Dorian Finney-Smith available, Jackson Hayes caught a DNP CD. Christian Coloco is like now completely out of the rotation. Even though again, I have thought he's been relatively solid this year. I don't know what this means for Christian Wood. Like if and when he comes back, I don't know if he'll have minutes ready for him whenever he comes back. And so like, with Vando coming back, I think it's pretty clear. And Raj and I talked about this the other day, or yesterday, last night. We talked about how like it's pretty clear that Jared Vanderbilt is probably going to be the center. And I asked around, and that
Well, and
seems
DFS.
What's that?
And DFS.
Yeah. Like the backup center, like those guys are going to be, primarily backup centers. And so I asked around about it, in preparation for this thing that I'm writing for Clutch Points, and then this conversation too. And like, yeah, it does seem like those guys are going to be kind of the backup center, and that's kind of the to use a Rob Pelinka-ism here. That's the big acquisition here, at that position is getting Jared Vanderbilt back and healthy.
That's like making a trade.
It is. No, you know what? It's even better than making a trade, Harrison, because you didn't have to send anybody out. So yeah, let's start here. What do you think about that approach? Like, what do you think? Because on the year, the Lakers are the 27th worst rebounding team in the league, just in terms of rebounds per 100 possessions. Going even smaller seems to exacerbate that issue.
Just certainly does when Rui's playing the center minutes.
It's true. So, like, what do you do with all of this? Like, how do you feel about the notion of the Lakers waiting for Jared Vanderbilt to get healthy and then basing what they do in the backup center market or in addressing that potential hole, a hole that I don't think they even recognize in the same way that you and I do, with Jared Vanderbilt potentially coming back healthy?
Well, number one, that's a big if, and if Jared Vanderbilt, let's say he does return this weekend, and so then it's like you have where we're about a month out from the trade deadline today. You have several weeks ahead of the trade deadline to evaluate that version of the roster and decide, okay, do we still need this sort of big bruiser for certain matchups, or does this team look so good that we don't think that we can find any minutes for that type of player because they'd be so situational and so break glass in case of emergency that we're comfortable having that be, Jackson Hayes or Christian Wood or, whoever doesn't get sent out at the trade deadline or Christian Koloko, but I think that the flaws in it are just that, that's an extremely limited sample size with which to decide, hey, all this basketball that we've played the last several years that has shown that we have like sort of an issue against bigger bruising centers and, really athletic, sort of physically imposing teams. We're going to throw all that out because for 3 weeks, Dorian Finney-Smith and Jared Vanderbilt rebounded really well. It's maybe that does work out long term, but it's also not a huge sample size over which to make that decision. But the thing that I guess I would say that I think I'm more aligned with the Lakers on than you is I don't know if giving up. I mean, it depends on the assets. Like if they're just giving up second round picks for a bruising center, then sure. But I don't know who that guy is. That's not just like a massive price tag that doesn't make sense in terms of how many players you'd have to send out to make it happen and contributors to the rotation. It's like, you could go get like Vooch theoretically, but does that, like, you have to send out Rui in that trade? And is Vooch going to play enough for that to be worthwhile? Like plus assets? I don't know.
I saw that rumor floating around here today. And first off, I don't necessarily trust the source.
I'm just using hypotheticals. I'm
but
saying like hypothetically, that's a guy who we know is available. We know like Nurkic is available. Do the Lakers want Nurkic? Like
very available.
I can't imagine they do. Did you see that the Sun said that he's not on the trade market? It's like that's like me leaking that. It's like that's like me telling someone it's like, no, this trash can inside my house, you can't have the contents inside of it.
Right.
It's
like
no one wanted that, dude. You didn't have to let us know that it wasn't available.
Matt Ishbia has seen like how Walker Kessler's price just keeps going up because essentially he isn't available. And he's like, well, wait, what if we try that with Yusuf Nurkic? You can't have him.
It would be like if after I got my failing gallbladder removed, I was like, no, but you can't have it. It's too valuable to this team.
To your point about like this extremely small sample size. So I just, while you were talking really quickly, looked at the schedule from say Saturday through to the trade deadline. Very notably, the Lakers don't play the Denver Nuggets. So like you're going to be like making this decision on this identity shift because that's what it is, right? Like it's going again, it's leaning all the way into, I guess we have to start calling it Redick ball. And moving completely and utterly away from, how Frank Vogel preferred to coach the team and how Darvin Ham, I think, prefers to coach the team. And now going in this very different direction, like, yeah, because January 11th. So January 11th is a game against San Antonio. They play against San Antonio again on the 13th. Miami, Brooklyn, LA, Washington, Boston, Golden State, Charlotte, Philly, Washington, New York, LA, Golden State, Indiana, and then Utah is February 11th. I believe the deadline is on the 11th, right?
February 6th, I think.
Oh, 6th, even earlier. So
I'm fairly certain it's the 6th.
I think you're right. Yeah, they always want to get it in before All-Star weekend now, right?
Yeah.
So that last game will be against Golden State. They don't play Denver again until February 22nd. So like how can we decide whether or not that approach is actually the right one when the only big team that you're going to see throughout all of that is Philly?
Yeah.
New York? Kinda.
I mean, they're big across the board. I don't know if they're like big. I mean, Cat has been rebounding like sort of like a monster this year.
Yeah, the
so
Clippers,
I mean, that is a real
the
test.
Clippers are fairly big. You play them February 4th, but everybody else
has always weirdly been an AD stopper.
Yeah, even when he was a Laker. Like, remember, like that's like my favorite Zubats game in the history, like in his time with the Lakers, right? Was like the Lakers announced like right before the game they aren't going to have Julius Randle available, and it was like just Zoo that they had for that game. And I think you and I did the show together. We were doing the show together every day back then, and we were like, "Oh God, good luck, Zoo." And he actually played really well. And then they traded him for somebody who never made a three on the Lakers.
Yeah. You think Mike Muscala is available? You think they could get him as a traditional backup big?
Only if
JJ might play,
Yeah, only if they acquire Zubats and then send him out for Mike Muscala again. But yeah, like that is a great point, Harrison, about like this sample size that they have between now and whenever they make, or the last day that you can make that decision on this backup center thing. And like, yeah, I guess technically they have the room under the second apron to sign a center who gets bought out, right? But that center, because they're above the first apron, can't currently make more than the mid-level exception. Yeah. So like, you're basically hoping that some player now, I guess Jonas qualifies for that, but he's not getting bought out with an extra year on his contract.
Doesn't he have a 3-year deal?
It's like it's a 3-year deal, but the third year is not guaranteed.
Oh, okay.
So
but either way, they're not buying him out of that.
No. So like, I guess like you could hope that Andre Drummond gets bought out. But
he's been terrible this year.
He's been terrible, and Jokic seems to delight in beating him personally, like for whatever reason.
I mean, this year I think everybody's delighted in playing against Andre Drummond. I mean, I say that again; it's like the foremost big Penguin defender on this show. He's been real bad this year.
Yeah, I've been, Trill Bro Dude and those guys over there, like bemoaning that Andre Drummond finally looks washed has been a tough sight.
I think Kyle Lowry being so bad that it's covered for Andre Drummond, is like the only thing that has saved Andre from getting like having like protests against him in the streets of Philadelphia.
Yeah. So I'd have to look at like the potential buyout market, and maybe that's what the Lakers are maybe waiting for. That seems more prudent probably, because they only have like 1 or 2 second rounders left that they can actually move. And I think they would like to enter the draft with a second rounder sometime between now and the foreseeable future. They aren't. I'm going to go ahead and predict that they are not going to use first round draft capital on a backup center. That might even include Walker Kessler.
To be honest, they shouldn't use first round draft capital on a backup center.
Yeah. What do you think about the whole Walker Kessler thing? Like, how much attention have you paid to that situation?
No, I mean, I've paid attention to it, but I think that he's the one where he's maybe worth giving up something like that just because he's so young and he's on. It's the same thing that when people talk about Austin Reeves and his contract and his trade value, part of it is just like he is so much more productive than you can normally get for a player at that salary slot. And that's the same thing with Kessler, where you're still getting him on like his first round pick, like scam contract. And so, eventually maybe down the line you have to pay him. But for a team like the Lakers that's sort of up against it financially, there is an extra, and really for any NBA team, there is extra value in getting a player that productive at like I think he's making like $5 million a year this year or something.
And next year is like just as crazy. Yeah.
And so eventually you have to start extension talks with him and all of that stuff. And maybe that's what the Jazz are trying to preempt and sort of get out in front of and just like trade him and see if they can get assets before, because maybe they don't feel like they're on that timeline where it's going to make sense to have a player like that around and they don't want to pay him. So they'll just, see if they can get an asset for him. But I don't think he's worth $2 for this team, because it's like we have a pretty good idea that JJ is not going to play him and AD a whole lot together. And so is it worth giving up all that extra draft capital for a guy that is going to play 18 minutes a game? Like, how much is he really going to play?
So this is a point that I made yesterday with Raj.
Yeah, I heard you that maybe, maybe if the team is different, then JJ will change his coaching philosophy. But the Lakers should have a better idea of whether or not that's true than anyone. And
better than me, yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? So like if JJ is telling Rob, oh, I love Walker Kessler, like I see him and AD playing alongside each other, I think that's going to be a great lineup, then yeah, sure, maybe it's worth going out and getting it. But based on what we've seen publicly and how we've heard JJ talk about basketball, I don't imagine that that's the case. And so my guess is that he has probably indicated similarly to the front office, and he sort of has by how hard he pushed to get Dorian Finney-Smith by all reports. He wanted him as that backup center option. And for Lakers fans, like crying in the car or the gym or wherever you're listening to this right now that really want a backup center, I mean, the one ray of light, a ray of positivity that I will give you on this front is that Dorian Finney-Smith was pretty good in that role for the Nets. The Nets actually beat the Nuggets this year. A friend of mine who's a Nets fan, yes, they do exist, was messaging with me after the DFS trade and saying basically the Lakers don't need a backup center. Like Dorian Finney-Smith, like go look at his minutes against Jokic in the last Nuggets game when they basically came back when they went ultra small with Dorian Finney-Smith at center, and you guys got the Jokic killer on the roster. I'm like, well, the thing that you don't understand is that Jokic activates like his Charizard form against the Lakers, and so he's going to be a lot more locked in,
like supreme rare Charizard. It's like diamond like whatever the rarest Charizard that exists, that's the one that gets to play against the Lakers every freaking time.
Yeah. And so, I'm this is not me saying I think Dorian Finney-Smith is the answer and the Lakers are good and they can beat the Nuggets in a playoff series now, but the Nuggets have gotten worse. And the Lakers, Dorian, I think, has shown an ability to have value in those small ball lineups. Maybe if they're not going to shut down the other center, at least they're getting out and running, and maybe they're still outscoring the team, the opponent by virtue of the spacing and stuff like that. I mean, again, it's not a perfect solution, and this is not me posting bail for the Lakers front office of saying the sample size is too small. JJ won't play a center anything anyway. Rob, you don't have to do anything. If that is the case, and if it is the case that JJ wants to play small and they want to play these small ball lineups, then you should be going all in on that small ball identity and trying to upgrade your rotation around that.
Do you see this comment?
No, I don't look at the comments live because they hurt my feelings sometimes. So
this is amazing. Every year the Nuggets get worse and we still can't beat them.
It's true. They're really trying to figure out, they're like, how much better is Jokic than the Lakers on his own? They're like, it's like the whole team is like a Jenga tower, and Calvin Booth is like, okay, but what if we take out this block? Are we still good enough? And Jokic is like holding the whole thing up, like off to the side like this.
That was such a depressingly true statement.
Yeah.
They just keep getting worse. We can't fucking beat them. Like, like those are the saddest
see them
cry laughing emojis
Yeah.
I've ever seen.
Let's see them beat the Lakers with Dorian Finney-Smith in the lineup. You know, I haven't
They
seen
were like
0-0 against the Dorian Finney-Smith era Lakers.
They were like, all right, how bad can we get? How bad? Who is the worst player that we have seen on the Lakers in the last like 20 years? Was it DeAndre Jordan? Okay, we'll go get him. All right. Now, who's the player that Lakers fans probably hate the most for like wrecking their title window? Okay, yeah, let's go get him. Russell Westbrook, come on over here. Let's see if we can beat them even with them. Oh, we can? All right, let's get
They're just it's like the ship of Theseus. They're rebuilding the worst parts of that Lakers roster, like
yeah,
on
like
their
they're
roster,
gonna go
just
get
to beat them with that. That's how much it's like you go back in time, it's like, no, Lakers, don't beat the Nuggets in the conference finals. No, you don't know what you've done.
It's like what if the key to the Lakers seasons this whole time is like you can't judge the Lakers until Trevor Ariza plays for the Nuggets? Like it's not you can't not Trevor Ariza playing for the Lakers.
He's like average 8 points a game, get some stocks, you know.
Yeah. All right. We are like, if we aren't gonna like
like what center is there a center available? Not your reporting, but like just your own analysis. Is there a center that you see as available or you think is out there that you think is worth giving up first round capital for?
Oh, first round capital? No.
Yeah.
No,
yeah, I mean
like,
that's sort of where I'm at. It's like
I guess
they get
Miles
connected
Turner,
by
but
everyone.
he's not available. Like,
yeah.
If they could get Miles Turner, then cool. But I don't think the Pacers are going to be. They're in
and
talks
that's the
right
kind
now
of center
with,
that maybe JJ would play alongside AD,
Yeah.
where he's still spacing the floor enough that JJ can get behind it with the shooting stuff.
But Indiana's in talks with Brooklyn for Cam Johnson, so like they're trying to improve their team. They like if they entered like tear it down mode, then sure, yeah, call them about Miles Turner.
I mean, it's like McMenamin said, Herb Simon is in the August of his life, and so or the autumn of his life, and so he's not looking to tear down.
Dave has some of the best like.
That is one of my favorite lines I've read, and it's like this guy's gonna die soon, so they don't want to get worse.
People don't realize how big of an impact that has on organizations, though.
Yeah,
like the
look at the Heat.
Well, the Heat, but I'm also talking about like in Miami, the Dolphins literally like cost themselves draft capital by trying to tamper with Tom Brady because their owner was trying to bring him over and help him win a championship before he died. But like, yeah, Pirtle is out there. I wouldn't give up first round capital for Pirtle, especially given how much money
I don't think anyone
makes.
else is either. So maybe you can get him for whatever seconds. I don't think the Lakers have many seconds.
Or like if I send out first round capital for Pirtle, I would expect second round draft capital back. Yeah. And then I think it's a feasible conversation there. Like I'm a little bit more open to that conversation there.
Get the Canadian exchange rate going,
Right. Post it up.
It's like, well, one of our firsts is worth at least 3 of your seconds. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think though? All right. So if we aren't really in, I think we're probably in agreement. I do, as skeptical as I am of Vanderbilt's health, I do want to see this vision or version of the Lakers, before they go out and they decide, okay, whether it's because Vanderbilt can't stay healthy or the rebounding gets worse. For what it's worth, since they traded for Dorian Finney-Smith, those rebounding numbers have gone in the right direction.
I would assume so. He's a pretty solid rebounder for a guy his size, and it's like you're replacing him at center with like Rui, who's like a terrible rebounder.
Right. So and like it's not just that like Dorian is a better rebounder, but like he has a better impact on rebounding. Rui, like not only does he not rebound, but he also doesn't really block out either.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would like to see this version of the Lakers first, and then you have probably a couple of weeks to hit that trade market again if it turns out like Vando can't stay healthy or this isn't working in the way that they were hoping that it would. And I think that like that's a fine, I think, path forward for them. Are there any other needs before we get into like how looking back on the 40 or 35 games that they played so far. Are there any other needs that you think are more dire or need to be addressed in sooner order?
I think if they're, again, if they're committed to trying to go all in with this version of the team and there's not centers available for them to go after, like I do think that trying to get, and this is not like groundbreaking analysis, but trying to get another wing, the thing that every other team is trying to get more of. But you need another wing if you're going to try and win playing this style at a high level. They are not switchable enough yet to where I would feel comfortable with them in a matchup playing like that against just about anyone. They need to go get, I know it's really hard for them to trade for Cam Johnson cap wise. And so that's probably not the guy, but they need to go see what they can get out there.
I want like a young athletic wing, like a young, cheap athletic wing.
Just the thing that every team wants on.
No, but I like, like one that is kind of.
You think they can get THT in the Vooch deal?
No, but like, a version of the Cam Reddish trade that they made before, right? Like the guys that like seem either potentially on their way out or like, Cam was a signing.
Yeah, I was going to say Cam was a signing.
But like those kinds of wings that like, you try to resuscitate their careers. Look, I'm biased
because the reason that I lean towards this is as much as we would want Jared Vanderbilt to finish out the season healthy, when and if he comes back, but he has not shown a great track record of doing that. And so you probably are going to want reinforcements to that position so that you're not in the first round of the playoffs or in the play-in and you're like, well, it would have been fine if we would have had Vando.
Right. So that's maybe the move I would probably look to make before the deadline. I'm with you there. Let's look back on the 35 games though that the Lakers have played to this point. They find themselves at the 35 game mark, 20-15. It's been a weird season. I think it's been very much a roller coaster, right? You've had great stretches, you've had really, really bad stretches, you've had loop-de-loos, you've had all kinds of stuff.
There were a couple weeks there where we were wondering if they were going to give up.
Yeah, if they were going to blow it up, yeah. Like, how would you kind of grade out the first 35 games of the season to this point?
I'd say probably a B minus, maybe. They've been probably a little bit above my expectations. I expected them to be about a 500 team this year. They've been better than that significantly. And they also made a trade earlier than I anticipated that they would. And it looks like he's going to be a pretty good fit. I mean, they've been in every single game basically since they acquired him, if not outright winning. And so I'd say about a B minus so far. I mean, the flaws in the team that we recognized were there. I think we've seen plenty of, and they went out and addressed, that to some degree by swapping out D'Lo for a wing. But I think B minus.
Yeah, I'm there with you to stick with like the Harry Potter.
Because they're above average. They're above like, I was tempted to say C, but they're above 500. I don't think you can go say like that's better than I thought they would be. And so.
To kind of stick with the Harry Potter theme from earlier, I would say they exceed expectations. Right? Like, if we're going to go with the OWL grading system. By the way, somebody said that I said Hogwarts wrong. Like, is there a right way to say that?
You did keep saying Hogwarts.
Hogwarts.
Isn't it warts?
It's Hogwarts. Hogwarts. That's a weird one. Should I say it with like a British accent?
Hogwarts. I thought it was pronounced like warts, like the
you
have a wart on your skin. Yeah.
Huh. Hogwarts. I've never even noticed that I said it that way. Interesting. Funny story. Horcruxes, the thing that like Voldemort uses, right? My whole like, I'm not kidding. I started reading those books like when they were being dropped originally, right? When I was like 10 years old. I actually like aged roughly with Harry Potter in that series. And for some reason, never saw the R in Horcrux. So I got to like, I listened to the audiobook and Jim Dale, who does that, who's like incredible at doing them. He was saying Horcrux. And I was like, why is he saying that wrong? And so I went back and I looked at and it's like so very me to be like, this guy's getting this wrong. Why
You're like,
is
what an idiot? Well, you're actually incorrect.
objectively wrong? I didn't see, for whatever reason, I didn't see the R in, like, it's HORCRUXES, right? Is how you, I
Sounds
believe how you
right.
spell it.
Yeah, I haven't read the books in
Yeah.
a long time, but that sounds right.
But and so I kept on walking around saying Hawkruxes. I sounded like I'm
You
from
were gonna
like
say it was like
Boston.
I thought you were saying that they were Hocruxes.
Yeah, right. These Hocruxes ain't loyal. Like, I'm just like, I don't know why Jim Dale is saying that wrong. And so anyway, no, I'm with you though. I'd say they exceed expectations. I'd say they are I wouldn't say much better than I thought they would be, but I definitely think they're better than I thought they would be. Um
I hope somebody asks JJ what grade he would give the season so that he can go on like some like condescending rant about like how he doesn't believe in grades.
yeah.
He thinks that like they encourage mediocrity and that we should always be striving to improve rather than give ourselves pats on the back for what we've done.
We also, like, we know that they can't say, like, they can't do the No Child Left Behind thing because of how they treated Jalen Hood-Schifino. Like, that's not how they
We're just going
believe
with this.
in development at all. No, I would say they're like a I would say slightly ahead of where I thought they would be. I came into the season, I thought the people were a little too low on them, even though I didn't like their offseason. I thought people were a little too low on them. There was this weird sentiment that the Lakers were somehow going to miss the play-in altogether when, like, they hired a coach who would play their better players more. So I didn't quite see them getting worse this year. I didn't see them making the big jump that I saw some people predicting of them too. So, like, I found myself kind of right there in the middle there, and 20-15, sitting what, like, fourth or fifth in the standings in the conference, kind of battling it out. I didn't think that they would have a chance at winning their division. That certainly has been a pleasant surprise this year. They're tied with the Clippers right now. So, like, I would say it's been a
Yeah,
good
shout out to the Pacific Division, man. There's
wow.
a lot of things happening in the Pacific Division this year.
Cheese and rice. like,
Yeah,
like I came into the season. I have a tweet up there. You guys can retweet it and mock me if you want. But I was like, the Lakers had the worst offseason in their division, a division that saw, like, the Warriors lost Clay and the Clippers lost PG. I was like, the Lakers somehow had the worst offseason in their division. No, actually, they're tied for first in the division. So you guys can dunk on that one if you want.
yeah. Well, I mean, look, maybe in your, if we're just grading off-season moves, maybe they did, on paper, but the actual final outcome is like, yeah, I mean, those other teams are, just not good now. I mean, the Clippers are better than expected, and but the Warriors are floundering, and the Suns are about to bench their highest paid player so that he'll waive his no trade clause.
Yeah. Did you see the report that apparently he'll waive it to come to the Lakers?
That's not real.
It is. It's real.
I don't believe you.
What? No, it's real. Gambo is saying that he'd waive it to come to the Lakers. Should we spend like the last 5 minutes of this episode trying to put together a trade that works in the CBA and makes any sense whatsoever?
No.
Perfect. That's how we're going to end it. I'm not kidding. That's going to do it for this episode of the Lakers Lounge podcast. Thank you, everybody.
If they trade for Bradley Beal, I'm not coming on the podcast on the second half of the season after the
ever
deadline.
again.
Like I'm submitting my resignation right now. I will not be analyzing this team on a regular basis if they do that.
I think a lot of people would submit their resignations. In many ways. With this team if they traded for
Bradley Beal with his play seems to have submitted his resignation that he is just never going to win anything.
I think JJ Redick would submit his resignation if they traded
I
for
like that Bradley
Beal.
Beal just like decides like where he's gonna go based on like living situation. Like it's like any other job. Like besides,
Yeah.
not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just most of the time professional athletes are not like, yeah, no, I mean, I'd waive my no trade clause to go to Miami or LA. That's fine.
$50 million
American?
is what Bradley Beal is making right now. Unbelievable. That's insane. So, like, yeah, you're moving everybody.
It's like, hey, you know, D'Lo's too expensive for how little he plays defense and how much he doesn't offer other than like as like a sort of scoring and playmaking threat. Let's trade for $50 million of Bradley Beal.
I'm not kidding, dude.
Is Bradley Beal better than D'Angelo Russell right now? I don't know that he is.
Yeah, there's no way the Lakers can do it. There's
Oh,
none whatsoever.
I mean, I don't think they would. I don't. My expectations aren't like that low. But
like you'd have to include Reeves, and no, like the Lakers would never do that.
Sending out the better player and salary filler and draft assets.
Yeah, no, they wouldn't. I think they would probably get a pick back with
Even
Beal.
Contracts aside, Austin's better than Beal at this point.
No, yeah, he's an objectively better basketball player than Bradley Beal.
Like Beal is not good anymore. He's just paid like he's really, really good.
Well, I think situation matters. He's playing like out of position because Devin Booker is better than him.
On his contract is going to make him play well. Like, oh, let's free him up. If we got him on that Jazz roster, he'd look real good.
Better than Phoenix.
I mean, probably, yeah. The Pistons, he's gonna.
Detroit would make some sense.
Playoff Cade.
Honestly, Miami doesn't want him, but I'd be down to no. I think Miami would get worse with
culture
Beal.
player of all time. Imagine swapping out the personality vertigo from going from Jimmy Butler to Bradley Beal.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the Clippers. I think there's if the Clippers decided to consolidate it. Well, no, Norm is better than Bradley Beal, so they wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Man, what a sad end to the Bradley Beal career.
Sorry.
Yeah. All right, that is going to do it.
The Bradley Beal career for anyone other than Bradley Beal. I mean, he made a lot of money, so good for him. But
yeah, I would imagine he's probably pretty. That's one of those spots, right? Where like you ask, would you rather have the Bradley Beal career or the Robert Horry career? You know, and I mean, professional, like the actual players would say they would prefer to make all the money that Bradley Beal would make. And I think fans would say that they would prefer to not be seen the way that we all see Bradley Beal.
Yeah, it's like I'd rather be Robert Horry just because I'm still decently rich. You know, I'm well off and I'm like beloved everywhere I walk in Los Angeles and San Antonio, you know, and probably Houston still too.
Yeah. Oof, all right. I just got chills thinking about like the Lakers trading for the guy, but no, just so you guys know, it can't happen. It like maybe if they hadn't made the D'Angelo Russell trade, then maybe they could have before. But I don't think the Lakers were ever interested in Bradley Beal. I can ask if you guys want, but I don't think they were.
They're just gonna laugh at you and hang up.
Hey, I'd be like, hey, you made me take this Vanderbilt stuff seriously. You have to listen to my nonsense. This goes both ways.
How much would you guys consider Bradley Beal? It's like the one source hung up the phone when asked.
I really want.
Another texted me back. Leave me alone unless you have something serious to talk about.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the Lakers Lounge podcast. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that like button. And then Raj and I will be back tomorrow night to recap that game. Thank you, Harrison, for hopping on. That is Harrison Fagan of SB Nation. Just so that, you know, I get the... Is there anything you want to plug? You never really... Have much to plug.
Just Lakers fans, check out Silver Screen Roll, and if you're an NBA fan, we are going to have some cool stuff coming at SB Nation NBA over the course, like lead up to the trade deadline, stuff like that. Got some roundtables that we're working on to sort of try and take our best survey of the landscape using all of our fan sites and that sort of thing. So yeah, it should be a fun time, and so SB Nation NBA.
All right. That was a plug from Harrison about SB Nation stuff. And then keep on tuning in. Hopefully have a pretty cool announcement for you guys here relatively soon about some stuff that I'm doing with Odyssey as well. So until then, and until next time you guys hear from us, I'm Anthony Irwin saying have a great rest of your day. Make somebody else's, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.